I hang out in some weird places on the internet sometimes.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
One of them is this little forum dedicated to electricians.
Huh.
There's an interesting thing that I'm into these days, and that's the skilled trades.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not a tradesman, but I like to read about different things people do: pipe fitters, welders, electricians, tool and die, things like that. And the other day, I came across a really interesting story from an electrician. Now, what do you know about the skilled trades?
I know that it's much like the Jedi Order, where you've got the master and the apprentice setup going on. You learn by actually doing it. Well, you can learn at school too, but you have to go and work with somebody who knows the field to do it.
And what do you call the Padawan, the junior person?
It's an apprentice?
That's right. And then do you know the word for the person that is basically the Jedi Master, the person doing the training? It's a weird word.
Okay, you've got an apprentice, then you have a journeyman.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Journeyman. Yeah, that's right. I wanted to show you this thing. So this person's an apprentice, and they were asking an opinion for the other electricians. This is clearly somebody that's learning. They're just now getting out into the trade, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And the quote says, "J-Man said this isn't level, and to fix it. I told him to stop smoking rocks. Am I in the wrong?"
Well, you certainly went big. Wow.
So, first of all, before you even see what I'm going to show you, well, what would you say to that?
Okay, J-Man is journeyman.
Yes, that's the boss.
Okay. Okay, I'm just guessing that there's going to be some obvious thing you're going to show me that is going to cause me to say, "Oh, young man. Oh, young man." But that's my guess.
All right, so it's a picture here, and it's a picture of a vertical piece of conduit. It's a pipe that's going straight up and down, and this is a pipe that you run like Romex through, like an electrical wire.
Sure, yeah.
And there's a digital level on the side of the thing.
Yeah.
And can you read the level for me?
Yeah, let me just throw this out to the third chair.
Yeah.
What should that digital level say? I'm just going to let you impress the people around you. What should that digital level say if it is on the side of a vertical piece of conduit?
You asking me?
No, I'm asking them.
Third chair. Okay, well, I don't know.
No, okay, well, Destin, what should it say?
It should say 90 degrees.
It should say 90 degrees. It should be clean. It should just a 9 and then a 0 and then probably a point and a 0 and then a little circle.
Yeah. So what does this level say? Can you read that for me?
Looks like it says 89.8.
So it's 0.2 degrees off.
Yeah.
So this apprentice did a job and said, okay, the journeyman came around and checked the apprentice and said, hey, this is 89.8. It's not 90 degrees.
Yeah.
React to that. What are your thoughts on that?
If it were a very difficult thing to make it 90 degrees and there were no consequences and the amount of work it would take to make it 90 degrees in the first place were massive, well then, whatever, bang for the buck. The time was well spent. It's close enough and it doesn't matter. But it's not hard to just get that at 90 degrees. I'm not a tradesman, but when I do stuff, if it's supposed to be at 90 degrees, you just put it at 90 degrees because it's not that hard to get it right. So if I am the journeyman, I'm looking at that and I'm like, hey, if you're sloppy with something that's this obvious, that takes this long, click, to say that it's wrong, but what are you doing with all the other stuff that's actually harder to get right? Because this is easy to get right and you didn't. What about the hard stuff?
Oh, that's an interesting perspective. Your brain went right there.
Am I doing it wrong?
My aunt had this thing that you remember when cross-stitching was a huge deal? In fact, I have
cross-stitching is still a huge deal. You watch your mouth. Tread lightly.
I have a wonderful little sampler that your wife Camilla made me.
Oh. Is it like a cottage or?
No. It goes in the bathroom.
Oh.
And what does it say again? Can you
It's probably like a Henry David Thoreau quote or something.
No, let me go get it. I know exactly where it is.
Okay.
Let me grab it. 1 second.
I assume it's something quaint.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a family of foxes gathered for dinner. Maybe they wear little suits or outfits. Maybe it's some sort of pastoral scene or a water wheel on a stream in rustic fall colors. Maybe that. Is it maybe a cornucopia spread about the table full of
still
the bounties of the harvest,
You're-
with a message of thankfulness for the things that the Lord has provided.
Your capacity to just produce words is unrivaled. Here it is. It's a beautiful little sampler made by Camilla Whitman, and it's got some pink roses on top and pink roses on bottom, and a little roll of toilet paper on the bottom. You see that?
Oh, I do now. Yeah.
And it says, "Don't even get me started on how coddled the modern anus is." That was a tangent, but my aunt, it's one of the best gifts I've ever received. Thank you, Camilla. My aunt gave me well, she didn't give it was just in the family. It was at my mom's house. It says, "Take care of the minutes and the hours will take care of themselves."
Yeah.
I love that. I think about it a lot. So I want to read you a reply comment. Now, in this subreddit, there were a lot of people talking about, well, I mean, it's pretty good. They're trying to take different positions on this. And then there was this one comment, and I just printed it out. I was like, this is amazing. I want to read this to you because it's incredible.
Okay.
I'm going to read the first part. I'm going to obviously paraphrase some things to not say certain words, but I thought this was very interesting. It says, "Worked with a journeyman when I was a second year who was like this and was dead serious. After a while, I pulled him aside and asked him if there was a problem. He was confused and told me no, and that he actually enjoyed working with me. When I asked him why he was so tight over little things, he told me, 'Cause you're going to work with a bunch of dumb journeymen who are comfortable with skipping small details, who are going to be okay with you taking shortcuts, and who believe working hard and working right are the same thing. I'm nitpicking because you ain't earned the right yet to decide when a little detail can be overlooked because you can't stop making them. If you overlook your small mistakes, I'm going to assume you're going to overlook your big ones. Do you want to be a journeyman that when your name hits the books, all they can say is, well, he's a good guy? Or when your name hits the books, do you want to be turning down dispatches because everyone wants you? Because I ain't ever gone without work, and I turn down dispatches every month, and that's because I don't skip the little stuff." That's an interesting take, isn't it?
Well, what did the commenter go on to say about what the journeyman told him?
Well, there's several different sections, and we'll just stop here. He says, "That conversation completely brake-checked my butt and full-on is responsible for my whole working ethic.
Wow.
I now turn down dispatches monthly."
Wow. Presumably because he's so in demand because of his high standards of excellence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've you ever call a plumber to the house?
Oh, Destin.
What?
Are we going to talk about contractors?
Oh, yeah. I remember what happened to you.
Well, to me, let's get somebody on the phone who we both know who's just had great luck calling contractors and having them come in and work.
Yeah.
You know who let's just get that person on the phone. They don't exist. Good luck.
Well, I will say this. There's one contractor that I've worked with, and I just call them because I know they're going to do their level best. There's been a couple of things they've done that we've had to go back and make sure was okay.
Like 89.8 level best?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like 90.0 level best?
I see what you're saying, but I don't know. Yeah, I've backed myself into a corner. You're absolutely right.
I mean, here's the thing. This is a point of huge frustration because every single person in the third chair right now who's ever needed to get anything worked on property, get something fixed, they have dealt with this. Problem number one with contractors is what? What's the first problem you run into?
Getting them to pick up the phone.
Correct. They don't call you back. Okay. Problem number two with contractors.
I thank the lady for
What's
answering
that?
the phone today.
Well, you should. It's a huge deal.
Yeah. For problem number two,
Mhm.
I don't know. What's problem number two?
Physically arrive at the time agreed upon.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have to not be at work.
Yeah.
Because they want to work during the day, which I think is entirely reasonable.
Yeah.
So you have to not be at work.
Yes.
But then they have to show up at the appointed time, or else you're just not at work
True.
while they're not there.
True.
And you can do it like the cable guy, which is we'll be there between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. somewhere in the next 28 calendar days. You just make sure somebody's there. Otherwise, we'll have to bounce you back.
Yeah, that's right.
A couple months. So you got pick up the phone. Challenge number one. Challenge number two, show up on time. Challenge number three is what?
Getting it done right.
I would, before that, put communicate about what the task is in clear terms and listen.
Oh, wow. I have stumbled upon something with you.
What's that?
I didn't expect this kind of to rile you up like this? You're kind of excitable about this topic.
I just took a whole bunch of cough medicine.
Yeah.
I do not know what was in there, but I feel like I could bend metal right now. Is it coming through?
No, yeah, it's coming through.
Can you see the veins in my neck?
No, I can't. Yeah,
What if
actually,
I
I
do
can.
this?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can.
It was great cough syrup.
So this is a thing. This is a thing that angers you.
Well, it is. And I keep running into it. So off mic right now,
Yeah.
I just told you a story about a recent experience I had
Yeah.
that because I live in a small town and I'm not looking to pick a fight, I don't want to put out there for everybody. But it's a legitimate gripe.
Yeah.
And that was an example of a great communicator.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you get a contractor there, crazy stuff can happen. So when I find those rare gems, and I recently found one, communication, not great. Work ethic, really strong. Likes to take a long weekend. I can live with that. We can get the project done later. But cares about doing it right and being honest. Yeah, real good on that front. So when I found him, I was like, cool. What kind of things do you do? Well, I do everything, man. Great, because I have everything to do. You work here now. He's been here for a month, and I like the dude. We're making headway. But I had to go through just tons of people who just didn't do the things they said, didn't show up, weren't reliable, did lousy work. My sister just got a metal garage at her place. They missed the holes in the roof putting it together, the contractors. They missed it, right? And they're like, oops, our bad. So they pulled the
screw?
Self-tapping screws with the
rubber gasket,
back out and then put them in the right place.
Yeah, you don't do that because water will come through that hole.
It sure will. And you'd think that being experts in steel building installation, they would know that. They also put two of the beams for the door, the garage door, in the wrong place. So no garage doors fit that gap. And they're like, well, sorry. And so my sister's had to do the thing where she's like, no, fix it. Well, we'd have to take practically the whole thing down. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's correct. My sister's a really nice lady, but why would you even think it would be okay to never even get it installed properly the first time and then just not solve it? So then these guys come out at my sister's place. They sat from 7:45 in the morning till 10. They had drinks. They sat on the trailer. They played catch.
Waiting on the journeyman to show up?
No, nobody showed up. There was just no accountability or supervision, so they just didn't work. Charged their boss. I don't know. These are the same guys who made the mistakes. They just sat there, and we watched them while I was visiting my sister. Just hang out, listen to music, laugh, goof around, play with the dog. And then finally, after 10, it was time to get up there on the roof and start working on it. So they kind of did. They took lunch at 11:30. They got back around 1:30. Hung out again for about another half an hour. These guys did 2-3 hours of work in an 8-hour day. Billed their boss for that. Just what? So I'm raw with contractors right now. So I see that 89.8. And yeah, I want to get my fist out and put it in this hand and be like, get the thing right. This indicates low character and bad work to me. And I want good work if I'm paying you tons of money to do the work for me. So that's my little speech. Now I'm going to chill. And the rest of our conversation can be composed and calm and dignified.
Well, I think it's a little interesting because the way the person wrote this is like, I can't believe my boss would be that nitpicky. What's really going on here is the person that did that work didn't have what's the word? I don't know. They didn't value themselves enough to be like, I'm the kind of person that does good work with videos or math problems or whatever I'm working on. I will do a 3 or 4 hour round trip re-render if I see one frame off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh man, there's a blank frame in the video. This stinks, but here I go, round trip, doing it all over again. Because I think your work speaks to who you are, and if you're putting that before other people, even if you're sweeping the floor or whatever you're doing, do everything. Christians have a saying in Colossians, is it? Do everything as if you're working to the Lord. And so I think it has a lot to do with how you present yourself to others in your work is important. I thought this was interesting because in this story, the journeyman is speaking in this comment here. The journeyman is speaking to the apprentice and saying, look, you get it right because exactly what you said. And I'm impressed that you went to that so quickly. If you're going to not care about the little things, I can't trust you with the big things. It's pretty
Not
obvious.
care about the easy things. It would have taken you maybe pulling and resetting one screw in raw wood to just put that on a 90 and just nail it. But you didn't.
Yeah, it says something. So this commenter says something else. So the typical Reddit, wow, didn't expect this to blow up. I'll tell you one more story of this man/legend.
Oh.
Which is really interesting. Now, this story, I think, is even more interesting because it gets into the psychology of this type of thing. Now, have you ever worked for someone who was your mentor and they were teaching you a craft, or have you ever done something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, working at church, my mentor was a man named Kurt, a wonderful man. I suppose he didn't teach me a ton about theology, I went to school for all of that stuff. What he taught me about was people, how to have a job, how to have a pastoral touch when you're dealing with the really raw things about life that you encounter: life, death, marital crisis, family, parental stuff, how to work with leadership and to feel the ebb and flow of a great big church and the momentum of ideas or maybe even discontent. Just tons of little things that I don't even know how you would cover in a class. He took me under his wing and taught me that stuff daily the whole time we worked together.
Did he ever get on to you?
Yeah.
Like, really get on to you? Like, not pointing his finger in your face and saying, hey, you've done this wrong and you've got to fix it. But kind of that level. Have you ever been confronted? I would say it rises to the level of confrontation.
Yes. But
anything you're willing to talk about?
Never the tone you just struck. In my attempt to be honest about me being corrected for not being perfect at my job, for mistakes I made in my job, I don't want to accidentally throw this good man under the bus. His style was always gentle and nurturing, even in confrontation. Matt, we need to talk. Okay? In the meeting, when this happened, you played it this way. It would have been better at that point if, so I need you to in the future. So, yeah, he would confront me very directly, but just style-wise, he was gentle, even when he was being very direct.
This episode of No Dumb Questions is sponsored by RAYCON. They make earbuds.
They do.
And they work with your phone.
Yep.
And I recommend them for gifts. Like if you want to give somebody a gift, and they're like, I wasn't going to buy those, but you did it for me. It's just going to work. They're going to like it.
Yep. I've never had anybody complain. Have you ever given Raycons as a gift?
Yeah.
How'd it go over?
Great.
Yeah.
Everybody's happy. They're like, oh man, that's great. I actually gave our buddy Dalen some Raycons.
Yeah, I'm probably about 12 for 12 on Raycons as a gift. No misses. And this is the thing. Sometimes you give people a gift and they know how to be polite, but you can tell because of social skills that was a miss. And you know that you were right later when you see that product never, ever, ever got used in their life. But when you constantly see people using something that you gave them, you know it was a hit.
That's awesome.
And I'm 12 for 12 in that regard with Raycons. I'm estimating somewhere between 9 for 9 and 13 for 13 approximately.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah, so they have this little case. We call it the pill. And you put the earbuds in that little pill, and it'll charge it up. So you get like 8 hours of charge just on the earbuds themselves. But if you put it in the pill, 32 hours.
The sound quality works great. The microphone quality works great. I use it all the time for conversations as well as just listening. There are multiple sound profile modes for different listening preferences you might have. There's an awareness mode, and all of that starts at half the price of other premium earbuds. So it's a super good deal as well.
Yeah, they sound just as good.
So here's the specific language on this offer that they're doing right now for 15% off your Raycon purchase. It goes like this. Hurry now to buyraycon.com/NDQ to get 15% off your entire Raycon order. Perfect for last minute gifts or to ring in the new year. That's buyraycon.com/NDQ to get 15% off Raycon products. Buyraycon.com/NDQ. Thanks all of you for supporting the sponsors, and thanks to Raycon for supporting the show as well.
What about you?
Well, I can remember one time in particular I was corrected heavily, and I needed to be. I can remember many times when I was corrected, but one in particular, I was a young engineering intern, and at the time it was a wicked cool job. I was working on a jet fuel pump test lab in Mississippi. So
Sweet.
I ran a test cell, and when you walk in the test cell, they had an entire fighter jet wing mocked up, And this hydraulic pump, which was also a jet fuel pump, it was pressurizing the whole half of a fighter jet simulation kind of thing. My job was to run the test cell. Now, it was kind of like busy work. It was, hey, we need somebody to babysit this, and you're a warm body, and, you're smart enough to hit a button if something makes a loud noise, that kind of thing. But at the same time, it was a super important job. It was one of the biggest programs at the time at this location. So I'm doing it. And weekend comes around, so I head back to Tuscaloosa. I hang out with Tara, my girlfriend at the time. I decide that I'm just going to hang around. I'm going to go back on Monday morning. So I'm going to go back on Monday morning. So I wake up Monday morning real early. I got to drive all the way to Mississippi. I forget how long that drive was. I want to say it was like 3 or 4 hours. It was significant. I forget. I start leaving Tuscaloosa, and when I get to downtown Tuscaloosa, there's a fire. And not just a little fire. There's a building, like a big building, like 7, 8 stories. It's a big deal, on fire. And that thing is just smoking. And I'm like, I've never seen a fire like this in my life. It's huge. They got the big ladder trucks out there. And I just pulled over on the side of the road and I just watched it. And I was like, man, what? Is anybody in there? Nobody was in there. It was early in the morning on Monday morning. But they start fighting this thing. And I watched for, 30 minutes. Nothing crazy. But then I hop back in Big Red, my truck, and I start heading towards Jackson. I roll up. I missed the morning meeting, at our little, back in the test department. I missed the morning meeting. And I get back to the test cell, and I grab my clipboard, and I go back there, and there's Logan, the guy that is my mentor. He's a technician. I'm an engineering intern. And so the engineers make the things that the technicians test. But I decided to come back and work in the test area because I realized I could learn a lot from these people, these wrench turners. I'm back there, and he's not treating me very well. He's kind of short with me. He's like, yeah, run it. Yeah, did you test the read vapor pressure of the fuel? Do it now. Yep. After that, go do the lubricity test. Yes, sir. Okay, and I'm just doing all this stuff. And I said, hey, man, are we good? Is everything all right? I mean, I was smart enough to know something was off, but that's about it.
You hadn't equated it
No.
with missing the morning meeting?
Nothing.
Huh.
No, I didn't know. I said, what's the matter? He said, what time does work start? I said, 7:30 or 8, whatever it was back then, I forget. He said, what time were you here? I was like, oh, well, about that. There was this fire, and it was amazing. And he's like, it's not what I asked you. I didn't ask you if there was a fire. What time does work start? And I said, 7:30. And he points at me. He said, work starts at 7:30, and you're going to be here at 7:30, and you're going to be in that seat this time. Do you understand me? Talk to me like a scalded dog, man. And I thought for like a microsecond, and I said, yes, sir.
Did you have any flash of wanting to come back at him?
Oh, no. No, not at all. No, he was the alpha male. I was a child. No question. I was a absolute kid that knew the rules in the back of my head. I knew what I should have done, and I didn't do it. But the fire was really cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, surely they would understand that. No, he's just like, look, I asked you to be here. You're going to be here. If you're working for me, this is how you're going to do it. And the undertone of that was, if you are my subordinate, act like it. If you don't want to be my subordinate, you get out of my test cell. He didn't say that, but his eyes said that. And I knew he needed me. I knew what I did for him. I bought him a ton of time. Like, while I'm sitting there writing down the pressures and the flow rates and the temperatures, he could be doing other things and be more productive. So I knew I was bringing something to the table, and I had value and worth. But at the same time, he was communicating to me, if you're working with me, this is how it's going to be. And you're either going to respect that or you're going to get the heck out of my way. And I had to think about that. I don't know. I struggled with that all day. And the more I thought about it, I can't remember if I'd pulled him aside and apologized or what. I did later. I actually called this gentleman 3 or 4 years ago, and I said, hey, man, do you remember me? He says, I do remember you. And I said, I just want to let you know that you pulled me aside one time and you yelled at me, and I deserved it. And he said, I remember that. I said, thank you for doing that. He said, you're welcome. It was a wonderful conversation. It was really cool.
Did more happen after that in the conversation?
A little bit more. I said, hey, I do this thing now on the internet. I do the education. He said, I'm aware of what you do. I've kind of enjoyed. I think you do a good job. He said nice things. And I said, you've been a very important person in my life, and you were hugely influential. And I take tremendous pride in my work because of you. You're a major player in that. would you ever consider allowing me to talk to you about that? He said, nope, I won't do that, but I wish you all the best. And that was it. And I was just like, man, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
His name's Logan. That's all I'm going to tell you. But he's just a really cool guy. That one conversation jerked a knot in my butt. And
I'm sorry. It what now?
I was in Mississippi. We used to say things like scald the dog and jerked a knot in my butt.
Yeah, that was the second expression of the conversation.
Yeah.
Is that all because we're talking about Mississippi and they
Maybe.
just say different things there?
They do. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen down here.
Yeah. Seriously, dude, you start doing stuff like that, you make me nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. You need
That's
to
a good
take that easy.
My favorite saying like that is, man, you know that guy? He's got enough money to burn up a wet mule. And I said, What? He said, enough money to burn up a wet mule. So what does that mean? He said, you ever try to burn a wet mule? I said, no. He said, with money? I said, no. He said, it takes a lot of money. Wasn't the same guy. Somebody else told me that. But there's a lot of really good, really good ones. Long story short, this person was incredibly influential in my life. And there was a flash. Like, he brought everything to a head. And there was a moment there where I got to choose, are you going to submit to my authority and try to work like I do? Or if you can't handle it, turn right down that hall and you walk right back to that little engineering desk you came from, and you can keep pulling drawings and you can keep making corrections, but you won't learn the sacred knowledge that I have. And I wanted what he had. He made it clear to me, I'm not going to give this to you. You have to earn it. And it was awesome. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Have you ever had anything like that?
Yeah, they hurt too. Those are the kind of moments I think about right before I fall asleep. I don't think about anything I ever got right.
You remember that time you did that stupid thing?
Yeah, thank you, brain. As a matter of fact, I do. You won't seem to let me forget the time I did that stupid thing, brain. Yeah, those were embarrassing, but needed. They were the moments where I learned that these are the boundary conditions of what I can do. I tried this on a work site one time when I was about 17. I BS'd the foreman. I was tired. I was hot. I wanted a break. So I gave some dodgy answers to try to dupe him into letting me do things the way I wanted. And I will never forget, he didn't call me out in front of everybody, but he knew. And he leaned his head back and he opened his mouth and he squinted at me and he said, huh, okay. And he forced me to say, okay, what? Yeah. No, just okay. Every single person on that site knew I was a half liar in that moment. He called me out for being a half liar. It wasn't a full lie. It was a half lie. Everything I said was true, but it was half true for my own benefit, not even for the benefit of others, for me, and for the not benefit of the crew and of our task. He shamed me in front of the whole group.
He let you shame you.
He let me shame me. Well said. You're absolutely right.
Interesting. That's an interesting way to handle that.
I suppose, big picture, that's some of the toughest lessons, because you're asking, that I've received from my mentors, is the times where I allowed myself to be a little bit clever with the truth or with words, not in a lie. And they saw it and they called me on it. And getting called on that, one, really hurt as a young man, but two, really changed me.
So in a way, when Logan called me on coming in late, he was loving me.
He absolutely was.
Yeah. So what was that guy doing? It's almost like he was giving you the rope to hang yourself. That's what he was doing. He's like, oh, okay. That's interesting.
I've never laid a trap or a test for you as a friend, ever. But you have had 10 billion opportunities to lie to me in the course of our friendship. Where, you just could have saved a little face. Maybe you dropped the ball, forgot something, just weren't attentive to something, wanted to look like you knew something, but didn't. You've never taken it.
Sounds interesting. Would you agree? It's just not worth it.
No, it's not worth it. But I don't know, props, man. That's just a huge sample size of you being honest. You got quirks, you got weird stuff. I got quirks and weird stuff. We give each other feedback on that. I just literally cannot think of an example of a breach of integrity on your part in an entire adult lifetime of friendship with you. I just want to give you props for it.
And that's why we have trust, man. Yeah, I trust you implicitly as well. That makes the whole friendship thing easier.
Yeah. Oh, it's so much less to keep track of.
Let me read you the last of this thing because I think this is brilliant. You ready for this? Speaking of lying, this is a case where a lie comes into play, and I want you to tell me if this is okay. Okay. So this is the commenter talking about his journeyman, right? His J-man. Listen to this. Several months after the above conversation, he was a raging, bad word. Nothing was good enough, regardless how perfect I made it, and he was constantly telling me to redo it. I'm just reading you how it's written. Some grammatical errors here. Even after I'd show him it's perfect and redoing it, it's going to look exactly the same. He'd just tell me, I'm sorry, but I thought I was talking to an apprentice. I think what he's saying here is the apprentice was trying to correct the journeyman, and the journeyman kept making him correct it even though he knew it was right.
Mm-hmm.
It's written a little strangely. And I would redo it all, and he'd come back and say it looked good. Drove me nuts. Well, this went on a full week, and come Friday morning, this is the last work day before I got back third year of school, I'm just an anxious mess. He gave me a task, and I asked 1,000 questions and wrote it all down to make sure I got it 1,000% right. When I finish, I asked for the new task. He comes in and looks at it and just goes, this isn't even what I stinking asked you to do. There's just a lot of bad words in this, so just roll with it.
Sure, yeah.
Now, this guy had one rule. You could tell him to blankety blank all day long as long as it was in his truck. So I asked him if we could go to his truck.
Okay.
He just smiles and nods. So we go to his truck, and I stinking unload on him for what feels like a decade. All the while, he's just sitting there smiling. Scared the crap out of me, but I was too mad to stop. After I finish, he asked if I'm done, and I just nod, expecting me to tell me he's going to get my money. Like the above conversation, I remember it verbatim, and this is how it went. And this is what the guy said. This is the journeyman talking. This is all I wanted. I needed to see if you could stand up for yourself. I'm not here training apprentices how to be apprentices. I'm training apprentices how to be journeymen. If you can stand up to me, you can stand up to anybody. Everything you knew was right was right. I asked you to redo it over and over, wondering when you were going to stand up for yourself. Because even I can be wrong, and it's going to be up to you to stand up for that. It doesn't matter if they're a journeyman, a foreman, or a general manager, or a PM, a project manager. If you can stand up for yourself, they're going to recognize that you won't second guess your quality or defending yourself or your brothers. You're getting J-man scale pay this week because you know that's the hardest part of the job. So I thought it was pretty interesting. So the journeyman basically, for weeks straight, kept telling the guy he wasn't doing good enough. Now, would that break you?
That'd be really tough for me. Yeah.
Why?
Especially when I'm in that kind of role. The approval means a lot. To feel like I'm making progress. I'm someone who's fueled by optimism. Even if that arrow is pointing a tiny bit up, I have boundless energy. But when that arrow is pointing even a tiny bit down, it's really tough. It feels like I'm just doubling down on mistakes now. I'm getting further from the goal. I'm probably too oriented that way, but a little bit of hope, of encouragement goes a really long ways for me. And it would be very hard for me to go for weeks without any kind of approval, without any kind of encouragement, without any kind of sense of what I'm doing wrong. I think I might have burned the bridge. I think this dude who wrote this comment is maybe of a bit higher character than me. I don't think I could have handled that.
I don't think I could have handled it either. This crosses over to ego with me. If I'm doing a thing I know is right and you're telling me it's not right, yeah, that's hard for me. I had a yearly evaluation one time, and up to this point, I had highest marks always for my yearly evaluations, almost like a Pharisee, you know? And then one year, I got nominated for Employee of the Quarter for the whole organization and the whole nation. And that's the quarter that my yearly review came back less than stellar. And I was like, what? It's like, okay, what's up with that? And it was the same quarter that there was this promotion thing, and this other individual, we knew who was going to get the promotion, and I was cool with it. I didn't even want that job, but that other person needed to stand out. And to this day, I wonder if that was the deal. But the person that gave me those marks also knew how my brain worked. And I wonder if they were just doing it to mess with me. I still don't know the answer to this. and it still bothers me. But I'm like super good friends with the guy that gave me those marks, so it doesn't really matter anymore. But it was a really interesting thing. The good thing about that person is we could yell at each other. I was the subordinate, but we could yell at each other, and then we would get done, and then we'd be like, "Okay, cool. You want to go get lunch?" I'm like, yeah, let's go.
You would yell at him?
No, I wouldn't yell, but I would be very stern. I mean, the emotional equivalent of yelling, like just very direct disagreement and not backing down. So no yelling, talking over each other a little bit, but no yelling. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds healthy.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. And part of me wonders if he was just wondering if I would stand up for myself, and part of me wonders if you just didn't do as good as you could have, and it could have been either one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of that teaching mentorship style?
I think it's interesting.
That's the safest word ever to use when answering a question like that.
It is. I appreciate it because there was a Kobayashi Maru type thing at the end where, hey, there's not really a good answer here. I just want to see what you do. To take the guy aside and say, hey, you're messing with me. My stuff is good, and you know it.
Mm-hmm.
And be like, hey, that's great. You just passed the final test. That's pretty neat. That's a neat way to do it. And it makes me wonder if the person's previous mentor did something similar to them, you know? I think it's a good way to do it. It crosses the line into lying a little too much for me, though. So
yeah, we've talked before about truth versus integrity.
Yes.
I think we do define those things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to define them a little bit differently. But yeah, that flirts with it. Telling somebody they're doing a terrible job when they're actually doing a good job, that's tough.
Matt, I've got a couple things to say.
Okay, I'd like for you to say them right into that microphone then.
A big one is that we are about to send out stickers to the patrons, and the stickers are designed, and they have the word testicles on them.
Yeah, they do.
There's another
but
one.
Nobody's going to think that that's what it says when they look at it.
Yeah.
They're not going to think it. It's going to be a real conversation starter.
We actually made one of barnacles as well.
Yep.
And I got to say, they're amazing because you're going to look at the sticker and you're going to be like, oh, what's that? It's the bust of a Greek time traveler. And you're going to look at it and you're going to be like, that's really cool. And then you're going to look closer and you're going to see their names. And then you're going to realize that it's really funny. And it's going to be a really good sticker to have. Where are people going to put the stickers?
I'm excited to hear the reports.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to send these stickers to literally everybody that supports on Patreon. I just want to tell you this is happening. And the way we made the stickers was amazing. What are your thoughts on that?
How we made them? How we drew them, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. All the time we spent doing it, you know?
Oh, my goodness. I labored over that. It was a brutal process.
Yeah.
I mean, first we had the part where you and I brainstormed ideas.
Yes.
And I was like, what should we do? And you were like, barnacles and testicles pictures.
Yes.
And I was like, great. And then I was like, well, let me take some time and see if I can develop some sort of mock-up.
Yeah.
So I went to Midjourney and typed in, make a sticker of two Greek guys. And then the first one was perfect.
It was not.
and then we printed them.
Was that the first one? I know the other, like, there were not good images that came up. Very, very bad images.
What are you doing, Midjourney?
Yeah.
The fault was not with my prompt. Those were unfortunate stickers, and those are not going to be printed.
We are not going to send those to people. That's not happening.
I do not care how much somebody supports at patreon.com/no-dumb-questions. You're not getting that sticker.
I'm not mailing that to all 12 patrons.
But the ones that we came up with, they turned out great.
So
I'm not sending out that sticker.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not doing it.
No, but
not even as I will send a quart of used mayonnaise before I do that.
The ones we ended up with were actually really good. It's a really
They're
awesome,
great.
It's an awesome looking side profile. Testicles has a massive beard and just looks like a boss. Yeah. Absolutely awesome. Barnacles just looks stoic and strong. And they're blue. They have the No Dumb Questions blue as the color. Did you type blue in the sticker? Like when you prompted it for that? How did you do that?
I think I did. I just wanted to kind of be able to envision it.
Yeah.
Instead, it just worked. and it wasn't a mock-up at all. It was, we'll just do that. And we just need to put testicles right on that. Just put that word on there, and I think we're set to go.
Yeah. So if you want a testicles sticker and you want to display the boys proudly, you can do that by supporting at patreon.com/notumquestions. It really is a good sticker, and I really am going to put it like...
That's a great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm going to probably put it on the front of one of my study Bibles.
I guess we should... we should like mention who Barnacles and Testicles are if you're just listening to this. They're time travelers.
Oh,
Yeah.
That could be really disorienting. They're time travelers who appear in several episodes of the podcast here.
Yeah.
And I don't know why those are their names. Those are their names.
Yeah.
And those are different times when those names were invented. And a lot of churlish, childish, juvenile, middle school brained boys are going to look at those names and giggle. But things were just different back then when those kind of names were given. And it's probably time for people to be a little more mature about it.
I think so too. So you should probably put this on your water bottle or on the back of your laptop so that people can see it and make fun of it. And then you're like, what's wrong with you? Why are you like this?
Or get a giant tattoo of this on your lower back.
Do not.
Or put barnacles on your right bicep and testicles on your left bicep, and then call your biceps that. And whenever there's trouble, be like, that looks like a big problem. I know a couple guys who could help. Barnacles and testicles. But then your sleeves have to be up so that you can see them. And then, like, you make their lips quiver by flexing.
I do not condone getting tattoos of anything associated with me. Don't do it. Patreon.com/notumquestions. We're grateful to everybody who supports. If you support by the end of the year, I think we have to have a cutoff. If you support by the end of the year, we're going to send you these stickers. I don't think we offer them beyond that, right?
At any level.
Yeah, at any level.
No. That's no. It's these are meant to honor the people who are supporting the program right now.
Right now.
And to say thank you to those winged hussars who are doing that. And it's a moment in time. And this is one of the little markers along the way in the history of what we're doing together here. So basically, first of the year, I don't think I'm going to send them out on New Year's morning, but first of the year, whoever's supporting, we're just going to send it to you, supporting at any level.
Yep. That's cool. And if you want this limited edition testicles sticker,
ooh,
no joke, the stickers are rad. And I hope you enjoy them. Patreon.com/notumquestions. So we had an issue at our house with integrity one time. Basically, one of our kids lied. It was a pretty big thing around the house.
Yeah.
So we were going to eat dinner or something like that. And I told the kids, like, hey, did you clean your room? They said, yeah. And I said something along the lines of like, I don't know about that. Go clean your room. And so they go up, they start cleaning their room, which they didn't know what to do because they'd already cleaned it.
Yeah.
Come back downstairs, and I said, did you clean your room? And they're like, yeah. And so I intoned that I didn't believe them over and over and over. We did this like 3 or 4 times. And finally, the kid's like, I don't understand. You're telling me to do a thing, and I'm doing a thing. What more do you want from me? And basically, the object lesson was if a person can't trust you and take your word for something, what do you even have? That was a big moment at our house because we as a family learned the importance of your name and how strong your name is. And we have this little saying, your name is worth more than gold. Hey, how much is your name worth? More than all the gold in the world. That's what we say. So it's a big deal. I don't know. I thought this was a really interesting lesson. The journeyman doing this to the apprentice, I don't know. Every once in a while I read a comment on the internet and I was like, that's amazing. I want to remember that.
Yeah, it was excellent. I don't know how I'd feel about being on the receiving end. I don't know how I'd feel about being on the giving end. But in the dynamic of their relationship, I think there's enough there for me to say, okay, I get it. I get why it played out that way. And I think it probably really benefited the apprentice. Yet it comes back to the initial question for me. Should he have got that thing to 90 degrees, the original poster? Or are you cool with 89.8 when it comes to a piece of conduit running in some supply closet?
That's a good question. I think if it's my house, 89.8 is just fine.
If you did the work.
If I did the work.
Yeah.
If it's somebody else's house.
Yeah.
And I did the work, it's got to be 90.
Well, I'd give him even more. I'd give him 91.
That's how that works, isn't it?